Hello and welcome to A Messy Life, a podcast where we showcase how problems are stepping stones to be overcome. I'm your host, Anthony Munoz. Joining me here today is my beautiful and amazing mother. Can you introduce yourself?
Mary Aguilar, Anthony's mom. Anthony, Alex,
Go ahead,
Eric.
just name them all off.
We just heard Alex laugh
Yeah, I'm not sure if
at
the mic
me.
will pick it up, but it's all good. So, how you doing today, Mom?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm excited to uh, hope for this to work. This is
Yeah.
the third. This is the third time we've tried to film this, and for whatever reason, we keep having problems. But what I told my mom was that I think it's because I just cut my hair. Like God
And you be
knew,
looking
God,
handsome.
yeah, God knew I needed to be short hair in the podcast. He just kept fucking it up for me. But it's all to plan, all going to plan. Don't worry. So basically, what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna ask you a couple of my own personal questions, and then we're gonna move on to community questions, which are questions that I pose to my community, and then they ask me a couple questions for you to answer.
Okay.
So for you guys who are viewing this, if you guys would like to ask questions, I put on my Instagram story basically a poll for you guys to ask your guys' questions. Follow me on Instagram there. It'll be down in the description below. All right. So what was it like growing up when you were younger?
We lived in apartments. So we had I think one of the bigger size apartments that
Mhm.
there was. I think there were 3 bedrooms at the time. And that's because we had a ginormous family.
How many?
There was, oh gosh, Nina and Luis had already married, so then there was 8 of us, 7 of us left.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of us girls obviously shared rooms.
Mhm.
And that's the tough thing is that our oldest brother, who is still at home with us, um, the memory I'm thinking of or the time frame in which I'm thinking of, Peter had his own room.
Mhm.
So that meant there was only 2 other rooms, which
So 6
was
or what? 5 or 6
mom
other
and
girls?
6 other girls. And then slowly they married off, and then
Mhm.
there was less of us. But it was a very, it was tight, but it was fun and beautiful. It felt like a very protective environment.
Mhm.
Everyone kind of worked as a team. So, like, as far as cooking and cleaning and all that good stuff, there was a lot of Mexican music being played and
Of
on
course.
clean days, and it was fun. It was really neat. So it was a loving, nurturing, very protective environment, I
Mhm.
feel like, for us.
Nice. When you were younger, as we all do, we go through problems. Um, as your younger self, what was a struggle or problem that you felt you dealt with?
Um, we talked about this only twice.
Only multiple times.
Only twice. Um, Pride, that egotistical pride kind of that doesn't allow you to grow. I feel like the kind that doesn't serve relationships, whether they're family relationships, husband and wife,
Mhm.
whatever. I was too prideful to sometimes admit I was wrong or to see things in a way that could help me grow. I
Mhm.
feel like when I was younger, and so I kind of had a blast through that at some point in my thankfully young adulthood.
Mhm.
Didn't take me that long, I guess.
That's good at least.
Yeah.
uh how do you feel like that struggle has turned you into the person that you are today?
I feel like one on top of it helping my relationships and helping me grow. I
Mhm.
mean, it's much more loving and kind to be able to bring down those walls of pride
Mhm.
and to acknowledge or take accountability for your behavior or your lack of knowing in certain areas. I feel like so I think it's made me not only a wiser person but a better person just to be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I totally get it. I struggle, I feel like sometimes with that same pride thing. Um, I'm sure everyone does. Excuse me. For me though, I feel like it always has to come, which I think is silly, but it always has to come to or has to do with like being good at something, if that makes sense. Like I feel like it only comes out when I'm there's like a skill set. I don't know how to describe it. There's like something that I'm attempting to do, and if I'm bad at it, that's when my pride is like it can't take it. Like it gets annoyed that it even sucks at anything, which is it's funny.
Do you admit it though? Like, do you admit it, or are you like, nope, nope, like I'm
I admit it when I can, when I'm become like aware, like that's what I'm doing. If that does that make sense? Like I'll be trying to do something and then I'll get frustrated because I'm not doing good, but I won't necessarily be aware in that moment that I'm getting annoyed that I suck at it or that
yeah,
I'm new to. Because anytime you're new at anything, you're gonna not be great at it for
yeah,
the most part. And then time will pass, and then usually it's in reflecting. It's usually in hindsight
yeah,
that I realize these things. Then I'm like, oh, I didn't want to continue with that because I felt like I sucked at it. But
yeah.
like that's just part of the
It
process.
it rubbed your ego wrong, and so it
Yeah,
was like, nope, I'm not gonna do this.
yeah, that's something
Sucks,
I
not I suck.
yeah, that's something I've been trying to work on recently. I, c- I continue to, I always feel it, but now it's just like recognizing the feeling and
Yeah,
working past it, like not
yeah,
allowing it to prevent me from doing the things that I want to get good at.
right. Because if it rubs your ego wrong and you just give up on it, like we all suck at something
Hmm.
initially, and then you get better at it. So
Hmm.
putting that ego aside and not being prideful about, oh no, it wasn't me, or it was that, or this, blaming something else for it rather than yourself isn't, you know, once you get past that, you can practice and get better at whatever you're
Right.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I agree. At this stage in your life, in, at this stage in your life, what do you spend most of your time doing and why is that?
I feel like at this stage in my life, I spend a lot more time with myself, but I do a lot of the same things that I've always done, which
Hmm.
is spend most of my time with those I love. Um, so obviously, when you guys were younger, it was all about you guys, raising you guys,
Hmm.
solidifying just mine and dad's relationship because we had just got married and we started having kids right away, and just um, spending time with him, with you guys, with my family. I still do all of that. But because you guys are grown, I get a lot more time for myself. So I get to spend the time doing the things I love, from, reading to shopping to getting massages to whatever I want to do. I mean,
Sounds like
whatever.
a good life.
Yeah, yeah, it is a good life.
I agree. I was thinking about it a lot yesterday, to be honest. I find that sometimes because I feel like I'm trying to do so much, I forget to be present.
Mhm.
But the way I just always become present, or maybe it's the other way around. Every time I become present, I become like super immensely grateful.
Mhm.
But I'm not always, in that place of gratitude, thinking about that, focused on that. Sometimes I'm trying to get like, okay, yeah, this is cool. I'm super grateful for this, but we got something else to do. You know what I mean? Like we got other
Yeah,
things to do.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like I have practiced gratitude on such a daily basis that that's part of my morning ritual
Hmm.
is, just waking up and being grateful and saying it to God, the universe. Um, but yeah, I think about it all the time. With everything I do, it's crazy because I do think it's a beautiful life to be able to have the freedom to do the things you choose for the day or you want to do for the day, or something comes up and you say, "Oh, I want this," or I want to go here, or I'm craving to do this, and to
Hmm.
be able to do it, that is such a beautiful thing. And
Yeah.
I definitely don't take it for granted, so I am grateful for it daily, but I wasn't like that when I was young, so I
Hmm.
totally get you because you've got all these things in your mind, and I've learned to be more present than I was in the
Hmm.
past, which you will
Yeah.
also. And
Something
it's
I'm working
beautiful
on.
that you do already, because I guess I'd have to think back. I do feel like I sometimes sat in gratitude even when I was young, but not as much as I do now, for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah, I just recently started it in a way to practice that. Instead of doing affirmations, I started doing pray, like just praying.
Mhm.
Um, so every morning now when I get up, I pray, and I pray for, instead of praying for like things or certain outcomes, I
Mhm.
just pray for him to give me God. to give me whatever it is that he desires for me. I think it was in one of the books by, I can't remember which one specifically, by Florence Scovel Shinn,
Mhm.
and she was saying how there is no other plan. There only is God's plan. That's the one plan. And so basically, that's what I'll ask for. I was like, just give me, I'm your soldier, basically. Give me whatever it is that you think I need to be doing. And I'm going to try my best to fulfill that. And thank you for everything that you've given me, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like in that has helped me be more present and grateful. But also, I think it's interesting um, because to me, it's like, wow, this is actually something I kind of realized yesterday. In a similar way, when grandma passed away, I kind of stopped like thinking about her. Uh, I felt like I neglected her after like. So remember, I was watching that one show, Midnight Gospel,
Mhm.
and I started bawling because of what I was watching, and it like triggered memories and emotions with inside me, and I felt guilty because I felt like I had neglected her, like she was in my heart the entire time, but I still chose not to see her there because it was painful, right?
Mhm.
And then I started realizing last night, like, wow, okay, here's why I started realizing it too. I was working on creating branding for Life Spectrum,
Mhm.
and one of the questions it asked was like part of like a personal story. And so I started describing I why my life has been the way that it's been. And I realized that at the same time that I lost grandma, or we lost grandma, I lost all my faith in a higher power, in God. And that in the same way that I was neglecting grandma, I was also neglecting my relationship with God. And so now it's like, for me, just beginning to do these prayers, it's like I'm starting to rekindle that. So and it's funny too, because every time I talk to God, I try to talk to grandma too.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm like rekindling those relationships. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's super cool. I feel like since you were a little boy, you were always grateful. Um, you had a grateful heart
Hmm.
from day one. Um, but I'm like you too. I don't ever really ask for specific things. I ask for God to set you guys on the divine path, what is meant for you. And
Hmm.
so that's neat that you already at 21 have come to realize that that is the best plan. So why ask for something else, right?
Yeah.
Like, but at one point in my life, I did pray for certain things,
Hmm.
and not to say obviously I don't still think about our health and our, all those things.
Right.
But I also feel like those are going to be there as long as they need to be there, and
Hmm.
and as long as we do our part, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really cool that you're already starting to speak to God in that way.
Yeah. It's because I was listening to a podcast where a guy was talking about it, and he spoke about um like having it. He spoke about basically you and your connectivity to God in a way as if it's a relationship, like an
Mhm.
actual person to person relationship. And I don't know, for whatever reason, it hadn't sunk in like that, or for whatever reason, that time it did sink in. And I thought it was very interesting. And I was like, oh, yeah, like in the same way with a friend, if I have a friend and I'm not reaching out and I'm not asking like, "Yo, how are you doing? Are you good?" Then I'm not really trying to build a relationship. So how could there ever be one,
Mhm.
right? And I thought about it in a similar way. It's the same way with God. If you're not attempting to build that relationship and stay connected,
Mhm.
then don't and you won't.
Yeah.
And so I just began, and I've been enjoying it, I think.
Yeah. I stopped for because so it became like a morning ritual of mine for a long time now, but for a little while, like for a month, I want to say,
Hmm.
I stopped. I can't remember why. I think I got sick and I was sleeping in a little longer, so I wasn't awake anyway. Um, it's so funny because then after like a few weeks, it was just a couple, I don't know, maybe like 3 weeks to a month that I stopped. And after like a couple weeks, I remember feeling like I didn't feel the same, like I was missing something, and then
Hmm.
that popped in my head, and I was like, "That's it. I'm not feeding that relationship. I'm not getting in touch with the God in me on a
Mhm.
daily. And when you do that, it feels so different. It sets a different kind of tone for your day, for everything. And
Yeah.
so when I started up again, it was like, ah, yep, that's what
That's
it
what was
was. That's
missing.
what I was missing. Because when
Interesting.
if you've never done it, you don't know something's missing,
Mhm.
But when you do it continuously for a long enough period of time to where you realize the benefits of it, and then you don't have it, it's like something's not right,
Yeah.
you know? It's interesting.
You just reminded me of something else that I had thought was thinking about the other day. Funny enough, also, well, I guess it wouldn't be considered a podcast, but I saw it in a video, and it was saying the guy was saying Iman Gotzi. It's actually the person I bought the course from, my agency course,
Mm.
and he was saying how he's been praying to God since he was like 7 years old and hadn't stopped, and that there's something in prayer like the fact that you're basically relinquishing to some type of higher power, and in doing so you kind of have to like let your ego fall down because you're like, I don't know it all, and I'm leaving it up to you, and I'm having faith that you know what's right for me, and that there is a greater plan, right? And I think people oftentimes have a hard time with that relinquishing.
And isn't it interesting that when you relinquish and you actually do that, you feel so much more empowered and powerful?
Yeah,
So
it's
it's like we
it's
don't want to
funny.
lose power, but then when you actually surrender, you feel the
Hmm.
power.
Yeah,
Like it's
it's so silly. Yeah, I think I would say it like this: there's a river, right? And like that's God's plan. That's God's divine plan for us. Even if we're not realizing that we're like floating down this river, right?
Mhm.
And oftentimes that relinquishing process can feel painful because you're becoming vulnerable basically by relinquishing. You're letting go of um I don't know how to say it, like your ego trying to force a reality that's not
Mhm.
meant for you.
It's perfect.
And so you're fighting. It's like you're swimming up the river. You're fighting it, thinking that maybe by fighting, maybe I'll be able to achieve everything I want. But God already knows everything you want because He has the divine plan. He created the divine plan, right?
Mhm.
So He knows all your desires already.
Mhm.
And we continue to fight and struggle when the only real option that there ever was to relinquish. And then it, like I was saying, it's funny because then once you relinquish and you see, ah, like this was the only option there was, and it brings me everything I ever wanted.
Mhm. You really get everything quicker
Yeah.
because you're not fighting against
Hmm.
the current, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
In this stage of your life, obviously you've grown a lot from the young girl you once were, becoming a mother, now a grandmother with
Mhm.
Eric and Lorenzo.
Mhm.
And now I'm forgetting the other baby,
Ezekiel.
Ezekiel, second baby. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
Um, in that growth, how do you now view your problems?
Um, I view them a lot less big.
Hmm.
I think I just view them as things that happen in life. There's always going to be something that happens, and I no longer have the same kind of like suffering, sadness, whatever. Like they're not as serious as they are, even
Hmm.
when they're big problems. I focus so much more on the solution and on the fact that it is what it is, um, than I do on the actual problem or dwelling on the negatives of the problem.
Hmm.
So they're a lot shorter lived, and two, they're a lot less painful. There's
Hmm.
less suffering happening.
Hmm.
And when there is, I let it pass. And like I said, just focusing on the solution, it passes a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you got there? Like, what did it take for you to get there?
Well, I feel like, geez, like life experience and the wisdom and the knowledge that I've gained through one, again, life experience, but also just knowledge and knowing and surrendering to God's plan and knowing that things are going to happen, but that everything has a solution.
Hmm.
And so in time with all those different experiences, the more I practiced the surrender, the more I practiced the focus, um, I think a lot of it came natural to me too, because I remember someone bringing it to my attention. I think it might have been Eric when he said a long time ago, "Mom, I was talking about how a lot of parents suffer during their kids' teen years because teen
Mhm.
years are tough and tougher for some parents than others." But I remember saying, even with whatever situations we had that were considered problems or situations, I never felt like I really suffered through those. They were just stages and they were just things. And he said, "Yeah, that's because, Mom, you tend to focus on the solution versus the problem." So I feel like some of it came natural. The less suffering is something I learned through experience, but then the looking at the solutions, I think, was kind of a natural thing of
Mhm.
mine. So I think just life, time, experience, and knowledge. And now I'm finally at this place where it's like, yeah, like I'm almost embracing whatever comes my way versus
Right.
rejecting it and,
Yeah.
resisting it.
Which, like we were talking about earlier, is exactly what we should be doing, relinquishing, right?
Mhm.
Because we often think we understand what's going on when in reality we have a very small perspective in relation to God's perspective, God's knowing of the entire plan. We may see like a desire that he's implanted in us, and so we want to create that reality, and we may not necessarily achieve that, but that may have been part of the plan, right? And we're over here upset, sad, mad, possibly blocking our own blessings from being able to occur because we're continuously fighting.
Yeah, and when I say embracing it, it's because I do now believe that there's a lesson to be learned with
Hmm.
every situation you go through. And
Right.
so what's going to happen when you learn that lesson? You grow.
Hmm.
You become better. You become stronger. You're just a better version. So why resist that?
Hmm.
There's if you can look at the lessons behind whatever the problem is, because there always is one. Always. Um, and I believe sometimes they're there because we need to grow in those areas
Hmm.
because there's something we need to learn. And so,
Right.
yeah, I feel like that's why I've embraced whatever comes my way because I know there's something I'm going to gain from it, as
Hmm.
tough as it may be in the present moment. You
Right. Yeah. To touch back kind of on like a previous thing you said, you're
know?
talking about focusing on the solution more than the problem. I think that that's very important, and I think sometimes people don't really understand what that means. So I'm gonna give like an example so that people can hopefully see a way that it's done. It can
Mhm,
be done.
mhm,
So if you think about, let's say there's a smoker, someone who's a smoker, right, and they've been smoking for a long time, so now they're addicted to smoking, and they no longer want to be a smoker, and so they want to quit, but now it's hard because they have this habit, they have this addiction, right?
mhm,
And they keep thinking, man, I don't want to smoke, I don't want to smoke, I don't want to smoke. And they're hoping that by doing that they'll be able to program themselves into not smoking. But that's the incorrect way to do it, because even though you're saying, no, I don't want to smoke, you're thinking smoke. You're already thinking about smoke. So the thinking about smoke is going to trigger in your programming, your habits, the feeling of wanting to smoke, even if it's on a subconscious level, right? So you're not really like consciously aware of it,
mhm,
but that's what's happening. So instead of thinking, no, I don't want to smoke, maybe think, I want to be sober. I want to be sober. I want to be sober. Because then that'll reprogram it in you instead of continuously re triggering the programming that you already had. The
mhm,
problem being the smoking, the solution being sober,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a way that um, I think people should try their best to do. I recently was kind of dealing with a similar problem and came to that realization. It's like it's something I know, but then I was like, oh, I wasn't practicing it. And then I realized, and I started trying to practice that instead.
Yeah. The book, The Power of the Spoken Word,
Hmm.
that talks a lot about reframing the way we think or the way
Hmm.
we say things in a way that could better serve us,
Hmm.
and I think it's by that same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Florence Scovel
Yeah, I
Shinn.
think it's like a what is it? Like a summarized version of kind of like what she talks about, or it's a good one. I ended up buying that and passing it around to the family because I thought that was huge. Like
Yeah, it's a great
that
book.
was really important for me because while I understood a lot of it, like a lot of what was in the book, like I already knew it, whether it be like that inner silent knowing because
Hmm.
God is in us, or just even our upbringing. A lot of it came with the way we were raised and
Right.
our beliefs and all of that. But I think I wasn't very aware of the fact, like how we say things, because also I believe there's such power in intention. And so I always kind of just rested in that, in my
Hmm.
intention. But still, if you can align everything, why not? Right. So most recently, not recently, but most recently, I realize the power of also our words because they carry energy too. So it's been really cool to try to align that with the intention because the intention I've always known is huge
Hmm.
um, and powerful. But yeah, the way we say things and the way we think things could get us closer to the results we're looking for.
Hmm.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I want to add like two interesting things that I think the viewers would enjoy. If you think about when you say words and you write them out, you got like a sound, right? Uh, that is connected to a symbol, the letter A. So it's like ah,
Hmm.
right? Then you got a word. When you're writing each one of them out, what is that called? Spelling,
Hmm.
right? So they say when you speak, you are casting spells,
Yeah.
right? The word spell is in spelling.
Uh-huh.
It's the base word. So that's like a way to think about it. That literally you are
Casting
casting spells
spells
into
with
your own
your
reality with the
yeah.
words that you are deciding to
Yeah.
put out there. Another thing being, you were talking about the power of the words, right? And I think people often use affirmations, but I think sometimes they use them wrong. Here's what I mean when I say that. Like, people may go in the mirror and they'll be like, I'm this, and I'm this. Like, that's great. But they can be used more effectively. And it
Yeah.
talks about that in that book, actually.
Mhm.
It talks about that you should use them in like almost a combative effort. So, like, if you have a thought, no, I won't be able to do this, say out loud to yourself in that moment to because you just sent a energy, a vibration into that direction by thinking that thought.
Mhm.
So now you're going to use your affirmations as a tool to defend yourself against the unconscious parts in your mind,
Yeah.
and you're going to say, no, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it.
I
And so then
will.
now you are so let me think of it like this. Your vibration's going in a direction, and then you had a negative thought and it started sending you this way.
Mhm.
By using the affirmation, you now redirect yourself back to what
Mhm.
either maybe a higher place than you were at the baseline, or back
Mhm.
to the baseline, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of
Yeah.
a way that they should be used, I think.
That's what I do because I think as human beings there's and depending on our vibrational state too, like we can fall back into certain things or be
Hmm.
a little more negative or a little
100%.
more whatever. And so we're humans and we make those mistakes, so they're going to happen to all of us. But yeah, once you know about these tools, like at least for me that's what I've done when I've caught a thought that I don't want to exist. I don't want it to become reality. I immediately have
Hmm.
another one, two, three uh, better thoughts.
Hmm.
Thoughts that I actually want to become reality. So I've been doing that for a really long time. And sometimes you feel kind of like a crazy person because you're like, what? And then you're like, nope, this and this and this. But at the same time, like it's a beautiful thing to be able to be conscious enough to be aware of your thoughts.
Hmm.
Because sometimes we're not. We're just thinking, and spiraling into these negative, thoughts, which do not serve us in a positive way. So to use that tactic, I think it's pretty awesome. And I think the way you put it was perfect. Like you're going here and then, and it's like, nope, get back here, or even past that, because
Hmm.
now you're intentionally thinking and
Hmm.
using it to your favor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff. In this stage of your life, if you could give um like a label for where you're at right now, what would that label be?
Um, A deeper experience? I was trying to think of we had come up with, like, the
Yeah,
per
yeah.
what I was trying to say the last first time,
Yeah.
and then we thought of deeper experience.
Mhm.
So, having the experience I've always wanted, but on a deeper level,
Mhm.
deeper relationship with myself, deeper relationship with God, deeper relationship with you guys. Now that you guys are, grown and know who you and are figuring it out and getting to know yourselves more and more,
Mhm.
it makes those connections stronger and those
100%.
relationships deeper because we know more,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think I'm having a deeper life experience.
Mm.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. This is not even on here, but I'm just curious. Um, do you think that when you were younger, you thought that a deeper experience was possible?
I just don't think I thought about it.
Mm.
Like I
Yeah, that
was
makes
caught
sense.
up I was just caught up in whatever we were living, whether it was going to school and your friends and I don't think I started thinking deeper until I got married and pregnant with Eric,
Hmm.
which was 19. So I was pretty young still.
Yeah.
Which I'm really grateful for because honestly, I believe that it helped I took these massive leaps of growth due to what I was experiencing at
Hmm.
such a young age. But yeah, before that, I do feel like I love to write and I love to read. And so I guess I would, if I was going through something, I would think about it deeply and like analyze it but not really about the future or life or what life would be like. It was more about like a certain circumstance or moment in my life
Hmm.
because I
Yeah.
was pretty deep with those things.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because, so like I said, I was writing that thing about my life, and so I was reflecting a lot, and I felt like in high school I had a lot of insecurities, and those insecurities, I wouldn't say I was like, I would say I was depressed, but it was like a minor depression, if that makes sense. Like I didn't like, I don't know, I didn't want to kill myself like some people do feel,
Yeah,
unfortunately, but I didn't like where I was at,
yeah,
and I didn't know. I wasn't like you were saying, yeah, I didn't think about it. I wasn't aware that there was any possible change. So then when I did begin to start changing and I started growing, I to me it was like my entire life changed because which it did before because I went into like a depressive stage, but it changed again in a positive way this time that I wasn't aware was possible. And so it was like almost an entirely new life.
mhm,
A big part of why uh, we're here doing this is so that hopefully other people can realize that same thing, that there is change, there is growth that is possible, and you don't have to stay where you are. If you want to be somewhere else, there are things you can do, steps you can take to put yourself on a wavelength to get where you want to go.
yeah. I feel like I've told you this before, and I think what you went through in high school is a very a normal and I feel like a very common thing at that age because especially when you have personalities like ours you know or just anybody. I think some people experience everything deeper or lesser or whatever the case is, but I felt those things in high school too. I think the fact that we want better, that we are ambitious with not only ourselves, with everything, that causes us to be unsettled in where we're at in those
Hmm.
moments. And we're so young and we know very little, about a lot of things. And we haven't yet started on that journey of like growth and understanding and all this stuff. And so I think that that's a very common thing. I think the difference between you, let's say, and then the people who do sometimes, fall into deeper depressions is because they dwell a little longer and they get deeper into that sadness and that pain versus like trying to get out of it and find solutions or even understandings and knowledge because then that knowledge then gives you that awareness of going there can be change and there can be something different and then that gets you on that journey of you becoming a better version of you. Because
Mhm.
what do you want to change? What are you not liking with your life? What are you not liking about yourself?
Right.
And I think it's super common, especially like between middle school and high school. And I don't think because people lack that knowledge and that understanding, they don't realize that it's gonna change. They're like just living that moment of like hardship,
Mhm.
kind of, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. If you could give your future self some advice, knowing that problems, as we talked about earlier, always occur and they're unknown, what would you tell yourself?
It would be that don't take everything so serious. Life is doesn't have to be so serious. Problems don't have to be so serious.
Mhm.
Your emotions and your feelings don't have to be so serious, you know.
Yeah.
Your sadness, your anger, your pain, all of that, it doesn't have to be as serious as you feel like it is sometimes, you
Mhm.
know. So I think of that.
Yeah. I think that's good advice.
Sometimes I sit back and laugh because I think that we're so addicted to like dwelling or like feeling our own emotions, you know? And so sometimes like something happens and you feel this emotion and you're like angry or sad. Now that I know what I know and that I feel what I feel, I can sit back and go, "Wow, you're really having a good time sitting in that sadness or in that sad memory, aren't you? Because you're
Yeah.
choosing to be there."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like sometimes I chuckle and laugh at myself because it's like I can decide right then and there to immediately stop.
Mhm.
And I know I can, and I've done it plenty of times. Or I can go, I am enjoying that sadness. Wow, poor me, you know?
Throwing yourself a pity party?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
then that's a choice I'm making.
Right.
It's not that the emotion is controlling me.
Mhm.
It's like I am aware that I have control over those emotions. So yeah, just not taking things so serious
Yeah.
unless they're really positive. Then you can just sulk in all that joy and happiness if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So I feel like I've been blessed to learn a lot of these things about life very early in my life so that hopefully I can use them to the best of my ability to maximize the rest of my life. I've only been able to be in the place I'm at because of the parents I've had and the experiences I've had in life. I come to you with a lot of my problems or whatever it may be. We discuss a lot. We have a lot of discussions.
Mhm.
And obviously, for me to become a wise person, I would have had to have a wise person who helped teach me.
Thank you.
And so that's been you. Who do you feel like do you feel like there's been someone for you who helped you to become wise?
I I feel like my mom. I mean, I think anybody who knew her knows that she was super wise, but I also have to say I think God because God is within me and for some reason I've always had a passion, a desire, a curiosity on wisdom and knowledge because I knew those things could help me be a better person and also help navigate life in a much smoother way. So I did start early on in my life kind of reading and
Hmm.
finding out about things and looking into things and probably not as much as I would have liked because I was raising kids and stuff,
Right.
but I did it, I feel, especially a lot more than the people around me
Hmm.
did, which was different for me because I mean, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but from what I could see, I was searching myself.
Hmm.
Um, so I feel like mom, and then just being open to learning from other people too. I have plenty of siblings, and being able to look at the things that they had that were positive, that were good, that I could learn from too, or understanding different ways too, because we were all so different too.
Hmm.
And I was I just wanted to know, like, how could I understand all these different things? So being open to just seeing in others the things that could help me too.
Hmm.
So yeah, I feel like grandma, and then my own curiosities and wanting to, I don't know, make life easier, better,
Yeah.
and understand it better.
For those of uh for those people who are viewing right now who don't know us personally, possibly or don't never got the chance to meet your mom, could you tell them what kind of person your mom was?
She was I've said this already a ton of times, super wise, just very loving, very open-minded, also had a growth mindset, also was very interested in learning all she could that could better herself, her life, her family's life, her children. She was always very open to hearing anything that could better serve her. She was not stubborn. I mean, we all have a little bit of stubbornness, with especially with what we think we're right in or whatever, but she was
Mhm,
very open. I remember thinking as a young girl that I didn't see a lot of adults being as humble and open as she. A lot of people were set in their ways, and my mom always sat back and was like, "Yeah, teach me. Tell me what more, do you have?" And then she would take from it what she thought could serve her. And because she was very wise, she was good at picking up what she could use to her advantage again to serve her and her children and her family better.
mhm,
So yeah, she was an important one, I think. And I think she did a lot for our entire family because of all that love and everything she learned in her lifetime.
mhm.
Unfortunately, can you imagine how she would be now? Because she passed at 68 and she was already so wise because of that reason. Um, but yeah, she changed our entire life, I feel like, or
Mhm.
the trajectory of our family because of who she was. And
100%.
acted always with love and honesty and integrity. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She we talked about it on the previous podcasts. You know, I'm wise because I had wise people around me, that being yourself. You're wise, like you said, because of your life experiences, as well as grandma, who was a very wise individual.
Mhm.
And if it weren't for her, you wouldn't be where you are, and I wouldn't be where I am, and we wouldn't now be here recording
Mhm.
this for other people.
Yeah.
And so what we said before was she's been the biggest, or at least that we're aware of, because our past history is not really documented of our like lineage. Um, she's been a big generational curse breaker.
Mhm. Yeah. Right. Like you guys are now too,
We're
doing
trying to
this.
do, you know.
Yeah.
For me, I think a lot of actually probably everything that I do comes out of gratitude. And for me, it's like there are sacrifices, struggles, you guys, meaning my mom and dad, as well as grandma, have been through to get us to where we are today. And I think I have, and this is just a personal thing. Like I know sometimes parents tell you like you don't have to feel like you need to do something for us, right? But it's something I do feel and I want to feel, a duty that it's my job to now go even further. You guys brought us to a certain place, or grandma brought you guys to a certain place, and then you guys took it to a certain level. And now it is my job to continue to do that. And I
Mhm.
think that's just kind of how, personally, how it should work,
Mhm.
that each generation should continue to attempt to evolve in a positive direction
Yeah.
for themselves and for the future of one, their family, but
Yeah.
also the world.
Yeah. And I know that you say, because some parents, I know we've told you, you don't know us anything and you don't
Yeah,
need to, and that's with the intention of
I've
you
heard.
never feeling pressure coming from us. But you're right. What better than to show your family or to show your parents that you grow to be better,
Mhm,
the best version of yourself, that you grow to figure it out in a way that you find happiness, because that's mostly, I mean, that is what parents want for their children. They want them to be better than them. They want them to be happier and be healthier and everything that they desire for themselves, they want their children to have even better.
mhm,
So yeah, you probably feel that because that's naturally what happens when you are grateful. You're grateful for what you've learned and now you want to do that and more, and
mhm.
you want to continue that.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that's I think that's the way it is. And I think about that too with my mom. I've thought about it many times. What would she want us to be like? What would she, she worked her butt off to get us to a certain place. Like, let's make her proud and let's,
Hmm.
you do it out of gratitude, not because you have to, but because it just comes natural.
Yeah. I wrote something the other day because yesterday was kind of a big day for reflection because I was having to do those writings.
Mhm.
Um, and I think I said something like, "This is gonna sound weird. Maybe I shouldn't even say it, but I'm just gonna do it anyways. I don't care." I said, "My intentions are pure. I don't see anything else to do in life. I needed a reason to not kill myself." And what I mean by that was, I remember specifically being in the shower right next door to where we're at, the room we're currently in, and I was thinking about Jesus. I was thinking about his story, whether real or not, and how he was willing to die, be crucified for what he believed in, and the strength that that takes to be the kind of individual who is literally being nailed to a cross after being like whipped and all these things, tortured, and still ask for forgiveness for those who are causing you all this pain. And I thought, well, am I willing to die for what I believe in? And I was like, I don't know if I am. So then, every day that you wake up and continue to live, it's a decision to live because people unfortunately do kill themselves, and so you can just decide, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm gonna go, and
Right.
then take yourself out. But if I'm going to make that decision, then for myself to live every single day, why? What am I going to live for? And to me, it's for this. It's for making my previous and hopefully future generations proud, but to also improve the myself and the world in a positive way. I I think it just comes back from to gratitude, which, like you were saying, I've always been a grateful kid. I don't know why that is really. There's no explanation.
You entered this
There's no
world being a
explanation
grateful
really for me for
spirit.
that. But whatever I want for myself, I genuinely want for others as well.
And I can relate because I feel that too.
Yeah, that's why we're here. We are now getting to document this conversation. Um, we touched on this in the last one, how now, since we're being able to actually record this wisdom, we are able to give it to future generations. Hopefully my children will be able to see this and be like, oh, this is what my dad was doing. Oh, these are the kind of things my dad knew when he was this age. And hopefully they'll be smarter and better than me, right?
Mhm.
And I just think how beautiful that is because before, like, imagine how it would have been if we could go on YouTube and see grandma like with all her knowledge. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That that could help possibly a lot of our family because they don't get to see her on anymore, right? Because she's passed away. But what if they could go back and be like, oh wow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was one of her lessons. I needed that today or something, whatever it
Yeah.
is. And now we have that. So it's like this compounding wisdom and knowledge that
That
we're
can
able to
be.
pass on to
Yeah. And
future
now
generations.
documented because
Yeah.
of this stuff.
Because of
Yeah.
grandma.
Yeah. Well, and technology too,
Yeah, yeah,
like
100%.
we'll be able to, there's a lot that we no longer remember that she might have told us like back in the days and something we could use maybe in the future, but because it's not documented and it's no longer in our memory, like we don't get to learn that lesson. We're going to have to learn possibly
Mhm,
through our own experience, which is fine too,
mhm.
but how much better can it be if you can learn from others and their experience,
Right.
especially those who were so wise and who had such great intentions for their own life as well as others? Like, that's just more knowledge,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I think that excites me, the possibility of my future children being able to be like, "Oh, my dad was a badass. Look at all the stuff he did."
Yeah, look at his
But
baby
yeah.
face. And
Why'd you have to do me like that? But,
baby face, I
um
say cute, but I have to
no,
say,
you said a baby face, but
I because you're always gonna have a baby face to me.
yeah, now I'm a man, okay?
Yeah, I
So,
know you're a
I got a
man.
man face. Now I'm a Disney Channel star. That's what I like to tell people.
It's a very
Because Disney Channel stars, they'll be like they'll be like 18 or 20 years old playing like a 16-year-old.
yeah.
So I'm a Disney Channel star.
Yeah, no, they'd be
That's
playing
why.
like 10 at like 17.
Yeah, that's why. I'm in Disney.
And you're gonna be so grateful for that when you're like 60 looking like you're 40.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, I'm also excited that hopefully people who don't get to have these conversations with their mother or whoever else we eventually have on here, um, that they also get to learn from it, because I feel very grateful that we have the relationship that we do have. Because I don't think without you or without just our family in general that I would have been able to get to the place that I'm at because I had to conversate and get it, release it, let it out in
Mhm.
some way for then it be able to be processed.
Yeah.
Um, and so I hope this is helpful for the viewers, you guys watching. I hope that you're able to take some positive things away from this and realize, like we said in the intro, that and touched on earlier, problems are just things that to be overcome. They are lessons. They are life lessons that help you become a better version of yourself. You don't need to fight them because you're literally fighting becoming a better version of yourself.
Mhm. And addressing them is super important. Tucking problems, resisting them, or tucking them under the rug and pretending they don't exist, or trying to suppress some of the problems that you have within yourself instead of coming to your mom or friends or
Hmm.
whoever you may trust. I think doesn't serve you. So being open enough and tackling those problems so that you can grow from them and learn and become stronger and wiser and a better version is super important.
Yeah.
So I think I'm so grateful for this relationship too, because I also feel like there's a lot of parents and young people who don't have that, who
Hmm.
don't have the relationship where they can just talk about anything,
Hmm.
hard stuff, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Hmm.
and everything. And I feel like we do,
Hmm.
even the hard stuff. Like we can talk about anything and
Yeah.
everything, and that's a beautiful
I do
thing.
tell you everything.
Yeah. And I can tell you guys everything. I think it's important to discuss, even though you're our children and we're parents, like it's important to discuss real things because this is life. And there's no point in, hiding things and pretending they don't exist because they're bound to arise,
Hmm.
right? And so the more you know, the more you can be prepared to what is real.
Yeah.
And it doesn't catch you off guard, yet you have the tools to overcome it all,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, and how fortunate. I was thinking about this the other day, as I said earlier, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who may not be as blessed to have this kind of relationship or they don't feel comfortable even if their parents maybe would be open to having this conversation, they just personally don't feel comfortable being able to do that. I think that's one of the reasons that is the reason life spectrum exists. Is we are supposed to be that person, that thing that you can come engage with, talk to, who's just going to be there to try to support you, to try to help you, because we all need that one person or that one thing that we can. For some people, it's therapy, right? Where they can go and release and let these things out, and hopefully learn from that, the process of expressing, right?
Mhm.
And it's almost like we're life spectrum's your best friend. Like that's like kind of what it's supposed to be. Like you can come to us, we'll hear you out, and we'll try to provide as much value and support as we possibly can in whatever
Yeah.
way we can.
Yeah. And I think you're reminding them, people, us, and you are shedding a light on what is truth, which is the answers are within, and
Hmm.
you're encouraging and reminding that it is important to let these things out, whether they be to Life Spectrum or to your mom or to
Yeah,
your sibling or
whoever.
whoever. It is within you, and until you start letting that arise,
Hmm.
you won't find answers, and you won't find solutions
Yeah,
because it is all within us, but we have to let it out. We have to. How
100%.
many times haven't we had a conversation and had like, oh my God, like
Yeah, aha
there it
moments.
is. That's the answer. That's what I've been going through. And hadn't put it into words. Why? Because you had to start releasing that was within because it was inside you. A lot of times we come to our own realizations having conversations with someone else, right?
Hmm.
Like we are all knowing. We have God within.
Yeah.
So we've got the answers. They're just in there and we have to help them come out.
Isn't that so funny? We touched on the power of words, but literally because we can be thinking through the same thing in our head all the time and get nowhere. But then somehow, with the power that words have, when we just say the same thing we were thinking out loud, it can make us feel like, oh, why was I thinking like that? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel it's because, like we talked about with manifestations, there's a lot that needs to be aligned for it to really take off, right? Just like we said, the power of intention, the power of your words. So, by speaking, by having these conversations, you're having the intention of releasing, right?
Hmm.
But then now you're using words. So now your intention and your words are aligning. And so then it happens faster.
Right.
So that I feel like that's why when we say things out loud, one, we're obviously intending to do so by being willing to say them out loud. But then now the power of the word as well. It just you have these light bulb moments. You
Hmm.
get these answers. Oh my God, it's happened to me a million times talking to my sisters about a problem or something that's going on. It's like, oh my God, that's it.
Hmm.
I find the answer just by speaking, but obviously I had to intend to have that conversation with them.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's things lined up, like we've
Interesting.
talked about before, that it makes it just quicker. I think everyone will eventually get there, right? But the more you know you have to have that action, and
Hmm.
then the words and like you just get there faster with the solution. So
Yeah.
yeah.
We touched on grandma, who, as we said, was a evolutionary person for the growth of our lineage, our family.
Mhm.
Can you touch on like some of the struggles that grandma experienced in her life?
I feel like the normal like conditioning and programming, she went through a lot of hard stuff. Thankfully she was a positive person and she learned, but I think just her programming and stuff. I remember um it was such a compliment to me because she said something like, I wish I would have been as brave as you because ever since I was a young girl, I had a voice and
Hmm.
I was brave to use it. I mean, sometimes when I shouldn't, that was back talking or whatever. But I was always brave to speak my mind, regardless of what that came out like or who was in front of me. And so I think that she kind of the way she was conditioned and programmed caused her to suppress a lot of that, just to be disciplined and just to listen and obey. And so even though she knew she could at an older age, it's like she hadn't gotten enough. She did when she had to, when it was super important, but not with everything. I think as she then observed us as adults, she used to then tell us, God, I wish I would have done that sooner. I wish I could have been that way sooner because
Hmm.
knowing what she knew and having the intention she had, she just needed to get past some of that programming and conditioning that caused her to be more obedient than brave and courageous,
Hmm.
no matter what that ended up like. So I think those were some of the struggles, just that conditioning and programming that I think is most of all of our struggles, right?
Yeah. What about with her like experience, like life experiences?
Meaning, like, what were some of the hard things she
Hmm.
went through?
Yeah.
Ah, well, gosh, I mean, think about it. Like, she came here not speaking English. Had to work her butt off, and then she uh, got divorced, and so she had an abusive or an alcoholic husband. Um,
Alcoholic, abusive husband.
yeah, so he wasn't a terrible man. He had an illness that caused him to be bad when he would drink, but he wasn't bad when he wouldn't drink necessarily. So anyway, she had all these children, she had to raise and feed and all of that. So she had a lot of struggles. I mean, she had to work 7 days a week to put food on the table. Thankfully, she had older children who could also help and assist her and support her in some of those things.
Hmm.
Some of my older siblings finished their GEDs or whatever like when they were older because they couldn't go to school because they
Hmm.
had to work because there was 9 of us to feed or a lot of us. So she had those were struggles, yet in
Yeah.
some way, like, she didn't sit there and complain about him, she just did what she had to do.
Hmm.
So I think that must have been, the biggest thing is trying to raise a family like on her own with all the obstacles of being in a country that wasn't hers and that she came to for more opportunity, but then had these things that, that were in her way, like language barriers and,
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But she was also very hardworking. So the minute they gave her the chance, she always proved herself. And then she ended up going from like just this normal employee to like being a supervisor, kind of higher level because she worked her ass off.
Mhm.
So sometimes some people would resent the fact that she worked so hard because that caused them to look like they weren't working as hard or to whatever. But yeah, grandma, she stuck to jobs for a really long time. So the jobs she did have, she moved up really quick, even
Mhm.
with the language barrier, just because she proved herself right away.
Mhm.
And that was always hers. She was going to do that so that she could have the stability and the ability to raise her family
Yeah.
and survive.
Yeah. And to me, like, as you go ahead and list off all those like hard things that she had to endure through in her life, to me, it's just proof that what we're talking about right now is truth. And the entire purpose of this podcast is truth. That these problems are just to teach you, because look at the kind of loving and wise person she became, even through all those very hard struggles.
For sure. Yeah. And she's one of those that would tell us there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always a light in every problem, too, and something that is going to come from it. So she was wise enough, even with all the hardship and struggles she went through.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, she knew it, she had lived it.
Hmm.
Everything hard she went through only led her to be stronger and wiser and, a
Yeah.
better version of herself, taught her to fight harder. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I yeah, I'm like now thinking about my mom, my heart almost feels like a burning kind of it's so weird. Maybe she's here. I don't know.
Maybe,
I'm
maybe.
like,
She
oh,
probably is.
ooh.
She probably is. She always is.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the community question portion.
Okay.
Again, remember, guys, if you would like to ask a question, follow me on Instagram. There, I will be putting a poll up on my story twice a week, basically, so that people can get an opportunity to go ahead and ask their questions. We're not going to be able to get every question, but we're going to answer as much as we can.
And then you'll have to bring me back.
Yeah.
That's the other because they need to know. Just kidding. I act
Oh
like
my
I
God.
love this. This is definitely different and awkward for me. One, I have light sensitivity and I've got these bright lights shining on me. And it's just different knowing that you're being recorded. So I'm totally joking, but they do need to know. They asked. So I'll be back.
So I guess she's coming back. No,
Because
I'm
I
just
said
kidding.
so. I'm the mom and I said so. I'm just
No, I
kidding.
always plan to have you back, of course. I want to do one with both you and dad at the same time.
That'd be cool. I was telling you the other day, I think you should bring your tias on
Yeah, we'll do
and
that too.
and have some like really serious topics about communication and overcoming like differences of personalities and opinions and being able to have the kind of conversations we get to
Yeah.
have with all the individuals in your family because what I understand about life and what I see about life that's some of people's major struggles not being able to have positive communication because of their differences and
Hmm.
difference of opinions and beliefs and all that and so I think that would be a really cool um, podcast because there's a lot of us. So, there was a lot of work involved in having the kind of relationship we have. I mean, your audience doesn't know, but we have a beautiful relationship with our family. And yet it's not because it's been perfect. It's because we've learned to navigate the differences in each other and to grow enough that we can have conversations as hard as they have to be,
Hmm.
but yeah, you got to
Yeah,
do that too.
for sure we will. All right, so first question. What is something that inspires you both in one another?
You go ahead first.
Okay, so for me, it's your ability to stay true to the core of who you are. And so what I mean by that is like you could talk to the president and you talk to them the same way you'd talk to like a janitor. Like you're just who you are. And I think that that's beautiful because um a lot of people aren't authentic in that same way. And I think that's respectable and that inspires me to live in attempt to live in the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, that's I've always taken pride in that because I do believe that as individuals, we all carry the same value. We're all created by God. And I think society or like, I don't know, our programming conditioning has caused us to sometimes look at certain individuals as above you or beneath you, depending on what or who or titles or blah, blah, blah. And I never saw that. I always think that the most important thing about who you are is the essence of who you are, the fact that you are, your heart, your being is important. It doesn't matter what you've done or what your title is or blah blah blah. So a lot of times people will see that as, oh, whoa, he's a president, or oh, whoa, he did all these things, which is admirable to accomplish a lot of things. That's cool. But that doesn't make you necessarily more valuable as a being than the janitor that you're talking
Hmm.
about. So I think I've always seen things that way. Um, so what I admire about you, and I've said it before, is your ambition, you I feel like you know what you want and you continue to know that through yourself. You don't need others to push you to obviously we all want support, we all want this, we all want that, but you can do it on your own. You don't have limits. No one's going to limit you.
Hmm.
Not a lack of it, a lack of support or a lack of whatever. What you want, you go for it. There's no limitations. I think you dream big and that's very admirable and I love that about you. Because I believe it with you, I believe that's true. I believe the only way you won't get to where you want to be is by giving up.
Hmm.
Um, I remember there was something else that I had brought up the second time that I was like, oh, and I didn't say it the first time. And then I was like, I'm so glad I remembered that. Now I can't think of it again. I
Done. I
can't
know.
think of it. This one is always right in my mind because I feel like the first one of all of us to have the size of dreams you have, to have the ambitions and to have the dedication that you have towards what you want. You said
Yeah.
the other day, I don't take no for an answer. And good Lord, do we know that as your parents, right? Like constantly coming at us with those things that you want. And that's a beautiful thing too, as annoying as they can be sometimes. It's admirable. And so I can say, with all
Oh, was it
honesty,
advocating for myself? Was it?
oh yeah, it was that. And that kind of is kind of the same thing as what I'm saying now. Like, you have always done that for yourself and you're only going to get better and better at it. I think you're going to learn different tactics and techniques that are, even better, but you have done that since you were little. So I admire you guys for a lot of reasons. I admire who you are now at 21 because the truth is wh- what you guys aim to be and what you've already put so much work into is so beautiful. It's a lot of work what you've done. You guys are constantly seeking that growth, that knowledge, and you can see it in who you are and what you know already at this age.
Hmm.
Um, it's not necessarily, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like that, but there's a lot that aren't
Hmm.
because there just is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
admire those
Thank you.
things along
Thank you
with
very much. I
others.
appreciate it. There are kind of two things I want to touch on in what you said. One being you were talking about my ambition. And to me, this is kind of why I feel the way I feel. Well, there's two reasons. One is, like I said, out of gratitude. So you guys brought us to a certain place. So now, like, okay, I'll say it like this: Dad has built a successful business, And because of that, now we have a certain level of ability. And basically, everything can be given to me in a way. But for me to feel like I did something, I'm not wording this correctly, but basically, to actually succeed because of the uh, position you guys have put us in, to me, has to be at such a much higher level. So, like, again, you guys got us here. And so now I have this much of an advantage. So that means with this much of an advantage, if you guys could go from here to here, that means I must be able to go from here to here because of the advantage I was given.
Mhm.
Right. So that's one of the things. The other thing is,
Can I interrupt you for
yeah,
just one
go
second?
ahead.
I have to say, you at 21, as far as wisdom and knowledge and emotional intelligence, you already are here compared to where we were here.
Yeah. But
It,
that's only because of you guys. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
which is insane. I mean, you're already doing it, so you're
Hmm.
only going to continue to doing it. You've already done it. Dad and
Yeah.
I talk about it all the time. How you guys handle things and what you know about life and how you deal with situations are with so much more wisdom, and you guys do it so much better than we did at that age.
Hmm.
We do that now, but at that age, you guys you've already surpassed us in
Well,
many
give yourself a pat on the back.
ways. My intentions happened.
Yeah. Thanks for having
Sorry,
those.
I
Thanks for
interrupted
having
you.
those intentions. They
What
helped.
was your second one?
um, the second thing was basically, actually, real quick. Now I wanted to touch on what you just said. I was thinking the other day to myself. I feel like I'm happy. Because I'm very grateful as an individual. To me, all there is left is to fulfill the plan that God has designed for me. And so to me, I'm like going from a place where I didn't feel good about life to where I am now. I feel like the hard part's done. I already went through the hard part. There are so many people who they take the steps, they become extremely successful financially in the world or whatever, but then they're depressed and then they hate their lives. Robin Williams, successful actor, rich, but still kills himself, unfortunately. And I'm already I feel I'm already in a good place. So I've done the hard part.
Mhm,
All there is to do is the execution of the other stuff. And that's just materialistic things. So
mhm.
it's like,
Yeah,
I've done the work. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But
And we'll
yeah,
continue.
continue.
Yeah,
Of course, it's an ongoing process. It's never done.
yeah.
This was one of the things I actually wanted to talk about when what I was saying earlier was that the reason I continue to grow and intentionally continue to grow is because I feel like it's just the natural law and way of the world. I feel like with what I understand, if everything is in motion, it's the law of rhythm. And when you stop, the only things that stop truly are when they're no longer here, when they are dead.
Mhm,
To stagnate, to stop completely is to die.
mhm,
So your life's going to get a lot harder for you when when you stop trying to grow
mhm.
or when you just neglect your own growth.
Yeah.
Because again, you're fighting that river. You're fighting the natural flow of reality, of
Mhm.
God's creation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The other thing, and the reason why I have the ambition I have, is because you talked about don't see life so seriously. I truly, at the deepest level, I don't. I don't like see life that seriously. Because from at least from what I understand, I think that, this is just a temporary experience for our souls. And that this is, you said something like people often have a hard time like accepting their problems, and so they can't ever they don't communicate them, and they can never move past them. And I think that's because oftentimes people are attached to their persona, who they think they are.
Mhm.
But to me, at the deepest level, I'm not Anthony. I'm not your son. I'm not none of that. We're just souls, and those souls to me come from God. So it's easier to see problems for Anthony, his character. So to me, in other words, to put it in a funny way, I guess you could say, I'm like playing GTA. If you know what GTA is, it's like you create your own character. Now you're in like the city, Los Angeles, and you're run around, do whatever you want.
Mhm.
That's basically how I see my life now. I'm just playing this game now.
Mhm.
I see how it works. I don't have to do anything. I get to do anything.
Mhm.
So if I'm here and I get to do anything, why not play this game the way that I want to play it? One, and two, to the best of my ability. Like, if you could have everything you desired, why would you not try to achieve that?
Yeah.
I don't see a point. So to me, it's not even like, oh man, these are such big goals, and I'm gonna be, you know what I mean? Like, it's just
Mhm.
like, what else is there to do? I
Yeah.
don't, I don't see anything else to do.
You're controlling your experience on this earth.
That's what I hope to teach others to do for themselves as well.
Yeah. I think that seeing it that way, which I believe too, takes a lot of pressure off because it's an experience. And one day we won't be here anymore and we'll
Hmm.
move on and have a different kind of experience, right? If you believe that or if you don't, whatever, we believe that. But yeah, when you can see this as an experience that you can have control over, or at least you can die trying, right? Until you move on to that next experience, like you're in control then. And you get to experience things in the way that you want to
Hmm.
experience them
Right, and those are desires that come from within that I've
yeah.
really always had since I was little. That's
Mhm.
just those were the things I liked, and
Yeah.
to me, those are the things that God has put within me. Because I want a big house, I want nice cars, like all these materialistic things. Of course, like I said, they don't really matter to me. Like matter, they don't, but I still like them, so I want
Yeah.
them, and if I can have them, why
Why
not?
not?
But but for some other people, it may look different. It may be I want to chill in a cabin in the forest with my dog, and that's it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Do that.
Yeah.
Whatever
Be
it looks
genuine
different
with
for everybody.
your authentic desires,
Hmm.
desires that come from within. Be genuine. Don't want things because others have them or want them because they're coming from within you because you desire them.
Right.
Whether it's because you like them, you love them, or you just want them.
Hmm. Yeah.
Whatever the case.
You
But
know,
that's your authentic self.
100%.
You know. Yeah.
I think, Life Spectrum's mission is to, for those of you who don't know as well, empower and galvanize individuals into leading fulfilling lives. So, really, what that just means is that as a business we want, and just on a personal level what I want for everyone else, is for them to live their best life, whatever that looks like to them, because I'm aware and I'm wise enough to know that my best version of my life is not going to look the same as yours or whoever's, right?
Mhm.
So it's just to maximize the potential of the experience that each individual is having here on their limited time on earth
Mhm.
in the way that they desire, because again, like you said,
Exactly.
the answers are within them. I don't have the answers for you.
Yeah.
I have a broad understanding of how I believe the world to work,
Mhm.
and I can share that with you in the hopes that you can take that and use it as a tool to again maximize your own experience.
Exactly.
But I can't do that for you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just here to provide whatever support. You either take it or you don't. That's
Yeah.
up to everybody, right?
Yeah. And you are putting the work into having a lot of that knowledge. Not everybody is doing that necessarily. So you can assist them. Maybe some people don't have the same amount of time, or, uh, they're just not the desires that are in their mind right now that, later they can come across it and it can assist them in,
Hmm.
figuring that out
Yeah.
whenever it's their time to figure it out,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, you are putting the work into finding out some of that knowledge and understanding about how the world works, about
Hmm.
how things work, so that you can share with those who don't
Hmm.
or those who haven't.
Yeah. I was saying to myself the other day downstairs, I was like, thank you, God, for making this my mission. I feel blessed that this is even the mission or vision that I have for myself, because to me it's a beautiful one.
Mhm.
And I find it almost I find it comical that I would think to myself when I was younger, like there, there's no point in speaking in a specific, complicated way, or articulating yourself in that way. Like, why not keep it simple so everyone can understand? As I grew older and I started reading more, I gained the ability to speak in that way. But I think that same kind of frame of thinking is actually a tool that has served me because now I can explain these complicated topics in a dumbed down, simple way so that others can actually understand it. And of course, that's taken me possibly thousands of hours of educating myself and reading videos, reading books and watching videos, movies, actual just life experiences. And so now I hope to distill that down as best I can for others. It's all for you
Mhm.
guys. Come on. Um, Moving on to the next question. Kind of went on
Okay.
like a rant.
It's okay.
What is the key ingredient to having a strong relationship with your parents?
Okay, we talked about I know I talked about acceptance and respect.
Hmm.
Um, I think acceptance is huge because we should want to accept and embrace who you were meant to be, your authentic selves, not
Hmm.
who we envision you to be, who we would love you to be, who we would think you're better off being, but who you genuinely and authentically are here to be.
Hmm.
So acceptance, I think, is huge, and then respect, and just having to respect who we each are, each other's boundaries, each other's ways, each other's beliefs, all that stuff. So I think those two things play a big role. Obviously, love.
Yeah.
Love is probably number one too, because we can make mistakes attempting to do the right thing along the way, but because of the strong love that we feel for one another, we can also understand that we try our best and that we're good intentions.
Hmm.
um what do you think
I would
as a
add
son?
onto that. I would add communication is very
Mhm,
necessary,
mhm. Very true.
but there are kind of like two parts to communication. I think you were saying this earlier. People have trouble coming to an understanding, um, and communicating with each other. I think so. Communication and understanding are important, but understanding where that really comes from is the second part, the second half of communication, which is really the more important part of the communication aspect, which is listening, actually listening. Because oftentimes we're not. We may think we are, but we're already thinking of the next response that we're going to have and we're going to spit out at them. And we're not fully taking in what they're attempting to say. And it's important we realize that we all communicate differently, right? Because we are all different. So to not with that understanding, with the understanding that we communicate differently, you're gonna say something and you're gonna know what that means, but and I may hear exactly word for word what you said, but to me, those words mean a different thing because of my context, because of my experiences, because of my understanding of reality. So it's important to think to yourself and ask yourself when you're listening to someone, what are they trying to tell me? Not with the way I understand the world. Separate yourself from this and think, what are they trying to say? Because oftentimes that'll help you actually come to that understanding instead of thinking to yourself, no, they're saying this and this is exactly what they mean. I know what they mean. Because more than not, you probably don't. They could be miscommunicating themselves, or there's just a misunderstanding. And because you're not attempting to listen, you're attempting to push what you want to communicate out. You don't hear someone.
Yeah. That's why I think elaborating and having like longer conversations, I think, is really important because that's when you can actually get to the bottom of things.
Hmm.
Even just asking if you're uncertain, or making sure you understand, but then them making sure that they're being understood too. Like, do you get what I'm saying? That type of a thing. That's something I learned a long time ago because I feel like in the way that I was misunderstood a lot as a young girl. Like, I was very tough and very brave and very sometimes what people could perceive as cold when I was younger, but I felt like inside I was a good person and I had great intentions and I loved so hard and so much, and
Hmm.
some of those people that I loved so hard and so much were having a a different perception of, you know, possibly my fault, possibly their way of perceiving things. I don't know, but that made me realize, wow, like we can think we know, but we don't know,
Mhm.
and so it's really that caused me to then understand how different we all are, and that we always have to know that what we think we may know may not always be accurate. So, how do we know another person if not by digging deeper, right? Asking more questions and making sure that what you're thinking you understand is what you are understanding.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like that part of me really helped me to understand humanity and understand that as individuals, we are all so different. The way we perceive, the way we speak, the way we see things. I mean, just everything it could be so different. Some of us are alike and some of us are completely
Mhm.
different. And so that was really neat, and I think it was a major lesson and good wisdom to have and to understand. And I've had to, just being in such a big family, I have to go, just because you think you know that about this person doesn't make it so. Like, have you asked? No. Okay, then you really don't know until you know, until
Mhm.
you've asked, until you've dug deeper. So, yeah, that's a really big thing. I feel like just understanding that we're all so different.
Mhm. Yeah, and this is a co-creative reality. It's in the same way if you want to have a positive relationship with one person, maybe it's a romantic, maybe it's a family member, whatever it is, with any other random individual that you may come across, it's a two-way streak. You
Mhm.
guys both have to have effort in there, or else there's not gonna be that communication.
Right.
It's not doesn't just fall on the listener. It doesn't just fall on the communicator. It's both of you guys attempting to reach an understanding, right?
Mhm.
And that doesn't necessarily mean an agreement, but that means an understanding where you can see each other's two point of views.
Yeah.
There's at the end of this book, at the end of The Alchemist, I don't think it's every version, but for whatever reason, this specific version of the book had like a extra excerpt in the back. And it said, only when me and my enemy can come together without any pre um conceived judgments and have a conversation and see each other's points of view, that is the only time when world peace will occur. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, we're not willing to sit down and have those conversations.
We're so attached to our own beliefs and our own. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did we start talking about that in the first place? Like,
Yeah,
oh,
we
we
were
were
talking
talking
about
about.
communication, which was a
Oh,
necessary part of having a good relationship with
yeah.
your parents.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, last question.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
What do you imagine your future to look like?
I imagine I imagine to do a lot of the same things that I'm doing, because I am intentionally doing the things that I do because I believe that they carry the most value.
Mhm.
And that's spending time with my family, growing with my family, um, yeah, nurturing the things that I feel carry the most value in this life. And that's what I plan on continue doing in all areas of life, growing in all those different
Mhm.
areas, from growing our love to our unity to our economic status to our businesses to everything,
Mhm.
everything. Just more of what we already do on, you know, deeper and bigger levels.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation. I want to say thank you for coming on for the third time.
You're welcome.
Oh
I do it
man.
again for you, Anthony, and again and again and again.
I appreciate it to no end. Um, yeah, this has been awesome. I really hope that you guys are able to take good stuff away from this. If you are, make sure you comment down below anything that you learned or anything interesting that you thought was impactful. Also, remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on the post notification bell, and we'll see you on the next episode because these are going to be coming out every other week. This has been the A Messy Life podcast, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.